So very good morning to my students. Myself Syed Usman Ahmed, and today we are going to discuss about a major topic that is being used in industry and many other firms, and that is related to software engineering discipline. This topic generally is not being taught as a curriculum of engineering students, so it is of very much importance to each and every student to know about what is software testing. So we are going to discuss about what is software testing and what are the types of testing that are being used in engineering curriculum and the applications in the industry oriented services or software oriented companies. So the topic that we are going to discuss here is software testing and its type. So basically testing is concerned with finding issues, finding bugs, finding defects in any type of system. Specifically speaking about software, we call it software testing, and if we want to test a complete system that consists of software, hardware, database or human part, then we call it as system testing. Complete testing of a system is called system testing, and specifically if we talk about a software, then it is called a software based testing. So basically starting with the first topic, that is what is SDLC. SDLC, as many of us are familiar with, it is called System Development Life Cycle. This is called System Development Life Cycle. Generally SDLC has 6 different and valuable phases. The first phase that a system has, its requirement engineering. In requirement engineering, a person gathers the information required for the complete system to be built. It requires the information regarding the requirements, regarding the functionalities, regarding the context, and regarding the informations that are being used or that are being needed by the client for the usage of that particular software. So the SDLC phases can be: first, requirement engineering; second, design; third, coding; fourth, testing; fifth, maintenance; and sixth, deployment. So these are the 6 basic phases that we divide for SDLC: requirement engineering phase, the design phase, the coding phase, the testing phase, the maintenance phase, and the deployment phase. So now I will briefly explain what are these phases all about. That I have already explained about requirement engineering, in which we gather information regarding the functions, context, information of the product. Next, after these information, the basic information are gathered from the client, we generally do designing. The designing is concerned with creating a conceptual and a concrete design together. In software industry, generally we as an engineer does not give any concrete design to the client. Like on our counterparts, we are having mechanical engineers, civil engineers, and electronics engineers that do create some concrete designs, model of a car, model of a PCB board, and these are the concrete designs that are being shown up to the client, and one has the option to either use this particular concrete design or start with from the scratch a new design. But as a software engineer, we generally provide a conceptual design, or we can also call it as an abstract design to the client, a design which cannot be touched or feel by the client itself, but it is form of diagrams, in form of symbols, in form of signs, and in form of words. These are the certain design tactics that are being given to the client by a software engineer. So designing a software generally consists of control flow diagrams, data flow diagrams, ER diagram, which is called entity relationship diagrams, tables, and many more, UML diagrams. The next phase generally comes, which is coding phase. The coding phase starts with the development or the construction of the conceptual design for a software engineer, and the design which is presented to the customer. Many more platforms can be used like C, C++, Java. These are the languages that can be used, and platforms can be .NET, Java platform, Android platforms. Whatever is the platform that is being used can be used for doing the coding. Next phase is after this coding has been done successfully and the requirement has been traced out with respect to design. So we start with testing of the modules that are being coded in this third level or third phase. Testing generally is the major part of a software, because if we cannot test a software, it will be full of bugs, errors, and defects. So we have to test a software with very optimized manner, and that too successfully. Maintenance is one of the phase of SDLC which is applied only to two scenarios. One is a software which has a maintenance scenario, and secondly a software which has an enhancement scenario. Maintenance and enhancements are not part of development. If you are developing a system, that is developing a system from scratch for the first time, then we do not have a maintenance phase. But if you are modifying a software, if you are maintaining a software, if you are changing a software, then we do have a maintenance phase. And finally we want to deploy, we want to install, we want to deploy that particular software to the client system in the client environment. So we are having a sixth phase which is called deployment. So these are the 6 phases that is supported by SDLC. Now another term that is being used in context with software engineering and testing is SWDLC. So now we want to continue with SWDLC, and we'll see that what is the basic difference between these two type of development life cycles. SWDLC generally stands for software development life cycle. That means SWDLC is a subset of SDLC. That means it should have either 6 levels or 6 phases, or it should have a subset of a minimum of 5 phases in the development life cycle. I will explain why SWDLC has less phases, because if I had to develop a software which is been developed from scratch for the first time, then in that case the maintenance phase will not be there in the SWDLC. So the number of phases will reduce to 5. And if I am developing a software for my own indigenous organization which I have already known, so I might not be needed to collect the requirements or to gather information about the requirements, because I already know the requirements. So in that case it can be further reduced if you remove that particular part of requirement engineering from SDLC. So generally SWDLC has a varying number of phases. It can vary from 4, 5 or 6. Right. Now the topic starts with testing. Testing is a very important part of both the life cycles, whether it is SDLC or SWDLC. We can have a look at the industry specific information, whether why we need testing of a software and why we need optimization of this testing. So if I can draw a chart or a graph which can specify that I have this 100% of development time. This is the 100% of development time that is available to a particular user, to a particular client or to a particular developer. Then out of this 100%, how much time is required or is given to what activities. This will specify the importance of testing and the future aspects of testing and its types. The first 40% is dedicated to requirement and design. The first 40% of the time is dedicated to the requirement and design of the software and the artifacts. The last 40% is dedicated to testing and release of the software. Now, in between I have only 20% left, that is for the main coding part or the construction part. So 20% will be left for coding part. So what I want to say is testing constitutes almost 40% of the complete development time. So we want to optimize that 40% and we need to have more and more testing done within this 40% of a particular development of a software. So with this technology, today's technology of automatic testing or manual testing, there is a need to increase the basic 40% to 50% or 60%. If we increase that basic timeline, then obviously we have to reduce the coding part, because the requirement and design part will take 40% of the time. So I hope so that the importance of this testing in today's scenario, whether a software engineer or a particular system engineer, should have this much time left, 40% or more than 40%, to test a software efficiently and with great accuracy. We are having two basic type of testing. First is the static testing, and second is dynamic testing. Generally, we as an engineer or we as a student, both type of tests, we apply both type of testing, but the terminology is not known to every student and every faculty and every engineer. So this lecture we also explain what is the type of testing that falls under static testing and what are the type of testing that falls under dynamic type of testing. Before discussing these two type of testing, there are certain terms that should be known and that should be understood by each and every student of this era, of this technology. The first thing is whether we know the difference between defect and errors. Generally, these two terms are used interchangeably between various scenarios. I say I got lots of defects in my code, or I can say I got lots of errors in my code when I was doing coding. But as a client, as a software professional, we should know that there is a difference between defects and errors. Errors are generally talked about those defects or those bugs, those issues or those faults that are a part of a software development before the delivery has been done to a client. So whatever bugs we got before delivery, before the product delivery is released, these are called errors. So these errors can be fixed easily with different techniques that can be applied, and that will be see in the upcoming lectures. Now, if these errors are not fixed and got released to the market, to a client, then in that case I or a client will have certain issues with the software, and it is called bugs. It is called bugs. These bugs, once released in market, are generally captured by the client itself, and the client, when notify these errors, these are called by the name called defects. I will exemplify that with the help of one example. We all went to have cold drinks like Pepsi, Coke, and these, if we find a can of Pepsi that which is which has a dent inside, what we say is there is a defect in this code, there is a defect in this bottle or this can, kindly replace it. The thing is, anything which has come out into the market after production and has any error, minute or major or critical, is called as defect. And the major task of a software engineer or as a software professional is to reduce this defect. So defects are bugs in the released code. Any bug that is there in the released code is called as defect. So the first terminology that should be that is used while studying testing, whether static or dynamic, is defects and errors. The second terminology that is being used is called validation and verification. These two terms are also used interchangeably by many of us in day-to-day life, but validation and verification, as per the terminology, have a different meaning. Validation generally stands for verifying a particular software against a set of data, against a set of actual requirements of the customer and actual data that is being passed and processed with the in accordance to the requirements. And verification is generally done in accordance to the specifications and not with the data. If I say I had to verify a screen that has a text box, then I will see that the screen has a text box. Now if I want to validate whether the screen, the text box that is there on the screen takes an alphanumeric value or a numeric value, then I will validate that data in respect to the text box. So we are having two different versions. One is called verification and one is called validation. Verification, if I say logically, it has to do with whether I am building the system right. I am building the system right. Verification generally says that whether I am building the system right. That means the system will always be in a right direction only when if I know the specification, I know the variance that I am going to achieve after the coding is done. If I am in accordance with the specification, then surely I am building a system in the right manner. And validation generally is done with I am building the right system. I am building the right system. That means I am validating the data that is being sent, the data that is being used in this system is right. Software is accurate and correct, and it will be helped to maintain. It will be maintained by the software. So these are the some terms that are being used in while studying about testing. So validation generally stands for I am building the right system. That means whether I am going to have data that is being displayed to the client in form of console or in form of any other form, then the data should be right. This data validation will be done by this term. That's why I explained you with the example that if I had a text box on a screen, the text box present is just a part of verification. The tester will always see that just there is a text box on the screen, the label against the text box is valid. Now if I want to validate the data that is being processed or taken or given as output from the screen, then I have to see the type of data that has been processed, alphanumeric or numeric, and the output that has been given to me by the particular software. So these are some of the steps that needs to be taken. These are some of the terms also that need to be taken care while we study about static and dynamic type of testing. Static testing generally stands for reviewing or doing testing for those artifacts which are not changing at runtime. So if I want to specify static testing Static testing generally refers to non-executable code or artifacts. So static words tells me that those artifacts or those codes which are not been executed in the environment, I am reviewing, I am finding defects, I am finding errors in that particular code which are not executable. I am not executing this code at runtime, but I am finding defects and errors and validating and verifying the particular artifact or code. So how this is done? If I am not executing, then how I am testing? This is one of the questions that is been asked by many students, and it will be raising in your mind also. The first thing is, when we are having a code, when we have a code, the code has certain errors. The first type of errors is logical, standard errors, or control errors. These are some of the types of errors that are present in a particular type of code. So to find these type of errors like logical, standard, or control, we need to review that code again and again. And the first type of static testing activity that is being done by us or by the company is first code review. Code review. Code review generally is taken care by reviewing a particular piece of code that has been developed by a developer and sent to its peer. Peer stands for a person who works in the same company, but he is a person who is not an author of that particular code. If I am the person who is writing a code, I may send it to my colleague to review that particular section of code and provide me the comments. Now code review is also called as peer. Peer-to-peer review. Here peer-to-peer means is considering two persons, one is the author and other is the reviewer. One peer is the author and other peer is the reviewer, and both these persons are concerned with the particular code that is being talked about or that is being reviewed. Now this code review, which is called peer-to-peer review, is not a formal one in which I can come to your desk, I can discuss it over other channels, and you can give me the comments, and as per your comments I will modify that particular code and send it back to you for the further review. This is one type of peer review that is being done to a code. That's why it's called a code review. So in code review you find errors like logic. If I write if statement and I have a variable x and this is equal to 1, this is a particular statement that finds its way in many type of codes and do have a logical error. The logical error associated with this code is this statement, this is equal to is an equalization sign, it is not a comparison operator. If I can mention in the same code if x is equal to 1, that means I am comparing the value of x with 1. If I say x is equal to 1, then the code which is there inside this if bracket will be executed. If on the other hand, if I see this, then the code which is there inside this if will be executed in all scenarios. So if a code reviewer can find that this code is faulty, this code has an error in this statement, he will rectify, he will intimate that particular author that this code if x is equal to 1 should be replaced by if x is equal to 1. And if we can tell that particular author before the execution of the code itself that this particular code is faulty or this code has a bug or an error, then we have saved time that will be spent on dynamic testing. So this is one of the way that we used when we test about static codes or artifacts. So artifacts here stands for all the documents all the test plans, all the design documents, all the requirement documents that has been prepared by a particular developer or a tester for the client. So any document that has been prepared by a tester or a developer for the client falls under the tag of artifact. So these artifacts are also being reviewed. It doesn't have a code, but yes, it has information, and that information needs to be reviewed before it is presented to a client. So we can also do artifact reviews. Artifact basically reviewed code for removing the defects in the requirement, removing the defect in the design, and removing the defects in test planning. So these are the part of static reviews that can be done to a code or an artifact. So now we have to discuss about the second type of testing that is more prominent to a developer or to a student than static testing. This type of testing generally has some executable part. You execute a code and then find errors. You execute a particular type of code in a particular environment and then execute a particular code. There are two types of basic testings under dynamic heading. The first is called functional testing, and the second is called structural testing. As the name insists, this functional testing generally stands for the testing the basic functionality of a system, of a software. We as a tester who are concerned with functionality of a system are majorly concerned with functional part of that particular software, and structural testing generally is concerned with the structure of the program, the coding language, the coding platform, and the coding environment that in which the software is being developed. So based on these two types, I can further name them for your easiness, that this functional testing is also called as a black box testing, and this structural testing can be also called as a white box. Black box testing generally means that if I am a tester or if I am a user of a particular device, of particular software, then I do not know the internal structure of my software. I am not concerned with the coding part of that particular software. What I am concerned is all about is the functionality that is to be delivered to the client. I will test only the basic functionality, and basic functionality can be tested based on the number of inputs and the desired output. So if I want to draw a basic diagram of functional testing or black box testing, then I can assume that this is a black box or a software. This is a software that is there. I have certain inputs. I have certain set of inputs that I am giving to a particular software, and I am getting certain outputs of that software. If I get the reasonable or correct output for a set of inputs, I will say the software that is being built is correct. The software that is being built is apt to the client specification or client requirements. But in case if I provide some inputs and I do not get the desired output, in that case I may say that the software is not functioning well. The functions that is needed by the client is not being basically developed or coded. So this type of issues can go back to the coding department, and they will code it again and send it back to the tester, and tester will again send certain inputs and verify the outputs. If he now in this case he verified that the inputs is right and output is right, then the software passes the black box or functional type of testing. Now if we come to the structural part, the structural part, as I already mentioned, has the coding perspective. It is mandatory for the structural tester or a white box tester to know the internal coding or internal platform, internal program structure of a particular software. So in that case, I have to show the particular software is having internal structure. So if I want to draw the structure testing diagram, then I have to modify this diagram with certain structure. I have a same software here, and that software may have C code, C++ code, Java code, whatever code is there, and the developer also knows about the particular code, and he can also see how the data flows in the particular code, either C, C++ or Java. Whatever is the code presented in the software, a tester applies the input, sees the flow of the code and verifies the output. If he sees that the input and output are not matching, then he can see the flow of the code and find out the appropriate or exact way, exact position of the defect, where the parameter is been not passed, where I am not populating the database, or whether I am not passing a session value. Whatever is the case, I can see only if I know the internal structure of the software, which is a part of structural testing or white box testing. Now functional testing further can be divided into many other parts. So if you want to test the functionality of system, then I can have first thing that will verify is called integration testing. Integration testing. In this type of testing, what I will do is I will integrate two or more modules. But before discussing about integration testing, let me just in brief explain the prior thing that is required for integration testing. The first thing is that we require is called unit testing. Unit testing generally stands for testing a software alone. If I draw three modules, maybe three modules, A, B and C. Now if I want to test the complete system that has three modules, I have to be sure whether A is working correctly, whether B is working correctly, and whether C is working correctly. So I will test the complete functionality of A under unit test with respect to the specification. With reference to the specification, I will do unit testing of A. Similarly, after developing B, I will do unit testing of B with respect to the specification, and similarly if I want to test C, I will test C with respect to the specification and do the unit testing. Once I am sure that all three modules, A, B and C are working correctly with their own respect, that means individually A, B and C are working together, I may proceed with the next level of testing, which is called integration testing, in which what I will do is I will integrate these two modules together. I will integrate A and B together and test that the basic functionality once we navigate from A to B works, or if we come back from B to A works. Whether I am losing information once I am moving from A to B or B to A, in that case I can fix the issues in A to B only, right? Now I can also verify whether I am writing the right response if I move from B to C or C to A, C to B. So these are the basic modules that are being tested once we do an integration testing. So integration testing generally take care of interface issues, the issues which can arise in between two modules. These two modules can have issues. For example, if I log in into Gmail account, many of you have seen that the Gmail account generally has something called mail.google.com, and after the question mark it is written as shva is equal to 1 hash inbox. This is the line that has been written if you see your inbox of a Gmail account. So what is this part called? And as a developer, if you presume that yes, in some scenario I may not see the content of my inbox in the Gmail browser, that it is possible only when this parameter which is called inbox is not populated properly. SHVA generally stands for should have valid authentication. SHVA stands for should have valid authentication, and is equal to 1 means that yes, the owner, the particular user of this site has provided the correct user ID and password. If the correct user ID and password is passed, then I will have 1, and once I see that yes, this is the correct author, correct user, then I will populate the inbox. If in some scenario the account, if I assume that A is the login page and B is your inbox page, then if I move to B and I cannot see the mails on that particular page, then a tester can identify that this inbox field, this inbox parameter will not be populated, right. So what you are doing is, you are not going to the coding part of that particular software, but as a user, as a tester, you are just testing the functionality, that if I provide the user ID and password, I may get an inbox or I may not get an inbox data. If I cannot get inbox data, then yes, this is the part that is missing. So integration testing generally takes care of interface issues, the issues that arises when we move from one screen to other screen, and for between different or multiple screens of a system. The next thing that is considered after integration testing is a system testing. System testing can be exemplified. If I exemplify you that yes, what is system testing, then I will take the same example again, A, B and C. It should be noted that I have tested A individually, B individually and C also individually. Also I have tested A or B and B and C. So I am perfectly fine that A, B and C works independently well, and if I say A and B and C works perfectly well. So if I now put them into one system, one complete software system, and apply certain inputs and see the corresponding output. If I can see that the input provided to the software system matches with the expected output of the system, then my A and B and C is working perfectly fine. My system is good and it is ready to release to the client. But in case if I find that the system, after giving a wide set of inputs, is not producing expected output, then whether can I find which module is failing? Yes, I can find the module A to C navigation is failing, because this is the only two modules that has not been tested in linked together. I can see I have tested A or B and B and C, but I have not tested A and C. So my complete concern and complete focus will be on that parameters that is being passed from login screen of Gmail to a certain screen of Gmail without being testing B module. So I can see each level of testing, unit testing, integration testing, system testing, clarifies a certain context of testing and reduces your work if done in a planned way. This system testing will also tell you whether the system modules in a system works together or it has a lacuna. The next system testing, the next technique of testing is called regression testing. Regression is a term that is being used in many other forms. Regression means if I say do rigorous studies or do rigorous activities, that means you want to do a particular thing in such a manner that the particular output of this system will not be affected by any type of defects. So if I say, if I as a software engineer produces, if I am a client and I have a developer D, the developer give me a code called A for my usage, and after using that code for a period of 1 year, I responded back with certain defects called X. defect called X to the developer D. Now what developer D does is, it will generally fix, now what it does it will fix X and produces a code called A dash. Now A dash is a new code that has removed the error that was there in A due to X, right. Now this A code will again be delivered to the client C for usage. The basic question now arises is whether I am sure whether the code that is been there for A is not been hindered or damaged by the code called A dash. The new code is the new functionality that I am delivering to the client, whether that new functionality is not going to damage the existing functionality. If I can ensure myself, yes, my new code will never damage the existing code. If I can find a certain technology, a certain type of testing that helps me to ensure whether the new functionality that has been delivered to the client will not hinder the existing functionality that has been previously delivered to the client, that testing technique is called regression testing. This type of testing generally comes into picture when I have a maintenance phase. If I call maintenance, that means if I have given a code to a particular client and that client generally uses it for a certain time and finds certain defects, he can send me that code again and I as a developer fix that code and send that modified code to the client. So before sending that code, I have to verify whether my functionality of A is intact in A dash, then only I can be ensured. So the way regression testing work is, for A release I have a set of test cases, maybe I call it B, right. That means I have certain number of particular points that needs to be tested before I delivered A. Now for A dash also on similar grounds, I have certain set of test cases that will ensure that the particular functionality of B will be delivered, functionality of A dash will be delivered to the particular client. So if I say I have a test case called B dash, then this B dash will inherit all the test cases, it will inherit the test cases of B. So if B has all the test cases that has been planned, B dash has all test cases of B, then I am sure whether I am delivering A dash functionality will never be damaged by the functionality that is delivered to A. अगर मैंने A, if I have given A to a client C and again I am giving A dash to client C, then in that case I will be ensuring that my A dash will never break the code which has been given earlier to a client. So these are the certain testing techniques that has been used by today's market that in relation to functional testing and structural testing, right. The next testing technique that we are going to see is usability testing. The next thing that we are going to talk about is called usability testing. This type of testing generally is done for those products that have a usability factor, the usage factor, and the sales and promotion of that software is affected if the usability factor is not considered. If I say you all have been using Microsoft products, maybe the keyboards that are used, so by God's grace everyone has a good hands and fingers, so we can use the control, alt and delete functions like control plus alt plus delete functions to lock or unlock a particular screen or to find task manager or a particular screen. These three functions are generally called sticky keys. These functions are generally called sticky keys. If I control this particular screen, particular three keys with the help of my one hand, if I can do that, then the usage of this keyboard keys will be increased many folds. Likewise, if I say, if we this the usability factor comes into picture with the basic research done by Philips. The Philips has a screwdriver which has an interface like this. In order to unscrew or screw a particular screw, what you do is you have to turn that screw for a 180-degree angle once and then 180-degree angle again. So if I somehow manage to reduce that 180-degree to a 90-degree angle, then I can speed up the particular screwing and unscrewing operation. Likewise, if I can draw a that has a cross symbol, then I will put it here, I will rotate only to 90-degree and again 90-degree. So I have reduced the work, I increased the usage of a particular screw. So by just removing that rotation of 180-degree to a 90-degree, what I have done is I have increased the usage. Now many people can use that particular screwdriver which has a cross symbol instead of the straight line symbol. Likewise, the Control Alt Delete keys is generally used by many of us, but if I can allow those people who doesn't have a single hand, then what I can do is I have to enable something called sticky keys. Sticky keys generally is provided by your vendor. Like many vendors has, if you press shift, if you press the shift button 5 times, then this sticky keys will be enabled. And now if you press the Control and Alt together, then these two keys will stick together. And if you release, then also these two keys will always be enabled, and with a single hand you can now press delete. So with one hand you can use Control Alt and Delete if the sticky keys option is available. Likewise, we also have something called hotkeys. Hotkeys generally stand for shortcut keys that are available with many softwares. Control C, Control V, Alt C, Alt V, these are hotkeys, and these keys generally increase the usability factor of a particular software. If I can provide shortcut keys, sticky keys, filter keys, then I can generally increase the usability of a particular software in market. So I have to test the usability of my software with respect to the functionality as well. One more functionality that is there is called toggle keys. Those keys that can change the functionality on being pressed once and pressed twice. Like if you all know that there is a function, the key is called insert on your keyboard, and if you press while programming in C, if you press this key once, this key will change its mode from insert to replace. Now it can toggle between insert and replace mode. If I say yes insert, if I press once, and it will be insert mode by default, but if you press this key once, then replace mode is on, and whatever you type now will replace the existing character. It will replace the existing character without inserting a new one in space. So toggle keys are also there which can help you to increase the usability of a particular product or a particular software. So usability is one of the basic requirement of today's market, because many of us want to use the software, but due to one or other issues, or physical issues or any type of other hearing aid, listening aid, viewing aid, we are not able to use that particular software. So if we can test our softwares with these type of usability factors, then testing of the software and the marketing of software will again increase too many folds. Likewise, I have one more type of testing that is available to me. It is called accessibility testing. In accessibility testing, what I am doing is I am going one step forward and giving my software to those who has certain type of hearing issues or visual issues, and if I can see whether a person who is not able to view properly on a particular contrast, then what I can do is I can design a screen in which I can provide a button which says if you click this, then the particular image will be highlighted. A particular image will be highlighted and all the corresponding background will be darkened, so that a particular person can be able to view this particular image or particular content or particular information more clearly than with respect to a brighter background. So if I can do that, then my software readability will increase with respect to those people who are not able to view a particular content in a bright background. Likewise, I can have certain things which is called soft keyboard. Soft keyboard generally stands for those options which have a certain keyboard option in the software form. I can provide keyboards like in many exams. If I can go for GATE, for IIT, they are not allowing you to use your keyboard. They have designed a soft keyboard which is used to enter data from the software only, and you have to use this keyboard if your manual keyboard is not working. So in case if your manual keyboard fails, I have the option of using soft keyboard. So this thing also will enhance the usage of a particular software or accessibility of a particular software. So these type of things needs to be tested again and again with respect to time. So this particular session of software testing introduction and the type of testing has been completed, and this testing is exemplify and suggests that this topic needs to be taken care in the curriculum of engineering as well as in the curriculum of a particular software discipline. Thank you.